Hello, my name is Darren Thomas and I'm the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this video, we're going to take a look at arithmetic sequences and finding terms within a particular sequence. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's say we know the following. We know that the third term here is as follows. A3, the third term, is 7, and A5, A sub 5, is 17. And our job is to find A sub 2. So that's what we're going to do. So now what we need to do is we need to write our generic term here, our generic sequence that we use for arithmetic sequences. And we discussed this in the previous video, so I'm just going to rewrite that real quick. And it's going to be A sub n equals A1. A1 is the initial term, plus n minus 1 times d, like so. So what I need to do now is that I take this formula right here, and I'm going to substitute the third term into this formula like so. So to make it as clear as possible, it's going to be A sub 3, but we know that's 7. I'll change it in a second. Equals A1, A sub 1 plus, this is going to be 3 minus 1 times d. And so we know A3 is going to be 7, so it's going to be 7 equals A sub 1 plus, well, let's see here, 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 times d is 2d, like so. Again, there's nothing unusual here. Now, the first thing I need to do is that we know that when you're dealing with the arithmetic sequence, the initial term is given to you. So I need to get this A1 by himself. This guy right here. If I get him by himself, I can figure out what he is. So what do? I subtract 2d from both sides. And so if you look over here to your right, I believe, you're going to find out that 7 minus 2d equals A1. So we're almost done here. And of course, we could figure things out if we really wanted to, but there's a problem that we have. We don't know what d is yet. And so now we need to continue. However, I cannot use A3. If I use A3, or if I plug this thing right here, what I just found, if I plug this in for A1 in the original equation, I'm just going to get 7 equals 7. So I can't use that. However, here's the good news. I also know the fifth term of the sequence, A sub 5, if you will. So if I take what I know about A1 and I plug it in for when n is 5, I can find out what my quantity d is. That's what I'm going to do. So let me go ahead and show you how this is going to work. So I'm going to have here, A sub 5, which is going to be 17. I'll change it in a second. Equals, now we know what A sub 1 is now. It's going to be 7 minus 2d. We learned that on the previous screen. Plus, and we know our n is going to be 5 because it's this term right here. 5 minus 1 times the quantity of d. Now our goal this time is we want to solve for this guy right here, d. Because we already know what A5 is. So I'm going to cross this out and just put 17. We know it's 17 because that was given to us on the previous slide. Right here, 17. Alright, so we just do some basic mathematics here. So 5 minus 1 is 4, so this is going to be 4d plus 7 minus 2d equals 17. And again, negative 2d plus 4d, they're like terms, so that's going to be positive 2d. And so now I have 17 equals 7 plus 2d. Now I subtract 7 from both sides, and I'm left with 10 equals 2d. Divide by 2 like so, and this is what we find out. We find out that d equals 5. Now that's amazing right there. D equals 5. Now we can take this information here and we can plug it in to find A2. Now watch this. Now we don't know what A2 is. So this is what we're going to do. A2, we want to find out what this value is. It's going to equal, now watch this. 7 minus 2 times 5. Now, where did this come from? Let me show you. We know this is the quantity for A1. Now, for A1, we knew that it was going to be 7 minus 2d. That's what A1 equals. If you don't believe me, let's go back to this slide. So 7 minus 2d equals A1. All right, and so what we're doing now here is that now that we know that d is 5, we're plugging this in for A1. That's what's happening right here. All right, that's what's happening with this little guy right here. We knew that A1 was 7 minus 2d, but now that we know what d is, we're putting 5 in place of d. So now we're going to have a whole number here. And so now to finish it off, let's see here. Plus 2 minus 1 times 5 again. This is the same original equation. Let me go back here. This is the same original equation as we have right here. Right here, if you can see my little line that I'm drawing. So, but we know that A1 is going to be 7 minus 2 times 5. We know N is going to be 2 because we're looking for the second term. And minus 1, and we know that D is 5 again. We know all this, and so now we're trying to figure out the value for the second term. So let's see if we can finish this off now. So 2 times 5 is 10. 7 minus 10 is going to be negative 3. And so we have 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1 is going to be 1. And then we have 5. So plus 5. Okay, and then this is all A2 again. And so A2 is going to equal, looks like positive 2. So this is our answer. So the second term of our sequence is going to be 2. A2 equals 2. And that makes sense because let's think about this for a second. Let me give you another slide here. A2 is 2. We know that A3 is 7. And so the difference here looks like it's going to be plus 5. But we're not sure yet. Let's just make sure because we also know A5. But let's go to A4 first. We add 5 again, we get 12. And then we go to A5. We know A5 and it's 17. So it appears that we found our answer here because we're having the same constant term each time and we're increasing. And so if we really want to know what A1 was, if you really want to know, you could plug it in as follows for those of you, for the A students in the class. A1 is going to equal 7 minus 2 times 5. This should look familiar, by the way. And so we got 7 minus 10. That's A1. So A1 is going to equal negative 3 if you really wanted to know. And again, that's one way to find it out. So this is a very interesting little challenging little sequence here where you had to use a lot of different little steps to get the answer, but we were able to do it. So in this video, we looked at how to find different terms in an arithmetic sequence when you're not given the initial term. There's a lot of little steps here that you have to do to make this work. You have to do some basic algebra and some rearranging. It's kind of hard to explain it. It's more of an art than a science here at this point. But again, using the skills that you know from algebra, you can apply this. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to solve for my initial term, A1. And so I solved for as much of it as I could, but I could not figure out the difference yet. However, because I had a second value here, this A5, I was able to take what I learned about A1 to deal with A5, and it was able to get an answer, so the fifth term. And then we were able to confirm it by checking just by doing some basic addition here. So again, I hope that you were able to understand and appreciate what we talked about. My name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques